Imagine wearing glasses that don't try to project a sci-fi future into your eyes, and notifications in a way that feels almost invisible. That's the moment. People realize Xiaomi's smart glasses aren't chasing spectacle, they're chasing practicality. And that difference is exactly why conversations around smart wearables are shifting. Instead of asking what futuristic tricks a device can perform, people are starting to ask a more grounded question. Does this actually fit into everyday life? When you look closely at how Xiaomi approaches smart eyewear, how it connects to your phone, how audio works, how it feels to wear, you begin to see a clearer picture of where wearable tech is realistically heading, not in theory, but in daily use. Smart glasses often carry expectations shaped by movies and tech demos. Many people imagine floating displays or complex augmented overlays. Xiaomi's real-world smart glasses focus on something far more practical, integrating audio and communication features into a familiar wearable form. You put them on the same way you would any glasses. There's no ritual, no recalibration, no learning curve that feels disconnected from normal behavior. That simplicity isn't accidental. It reflects a broader truth about wearable technology. The first thing you notice in everyday use is how little ceremony is involved. Pairing the glasses to a phone follows the same Bluetooth process. People already know from wireless earbuds or speakers. Once connected, the glasses function as an audio extension of the smartphone. Calls route through them. Media playback moves through them. Voice prompts, like navigation directions, arrive directly at ear level without isolating you from your surroundings. That last point matters more than it sounds. Smart glasses approach audio differently, keeping you aware of the environment, while still delivering sound clearly enough for practical use. This design choice becomes meaningful in motion. Walking through a busy street while listening to spoken directions feels natural because your ears remain open to ambient cues, traffic, footsteps, conversations, while still receiving the information you need. It's not about louder sound or theatrical audio effects. It's about layering information onto real life without dominating attention. That subtle balance is one of the strongest signals of wearable maturity. The device assists rather than competes. Comfort is the next reality checkpoint. A wearable only works if people forget they're wearing it. Xiaomi's smart glasses adopt a frame structure that distributes weight similarly to traditional eyewear. There's an intentional absence of visual bulk. Nothing about the silhouette screams experimental hardware. That matters socially as much as physically. Wearables that look unusual tend to invite self-consciousness, which limits real adoption. When smart glasses resemble familiar eyewear, they slip into everyday environments without becoming the center of attention. Daily communication is where practicality becomes obvious. Taking a phone call through glasses feels less like using a device and more like continuing a conversation while keeping your hands free. You don't stop walking. You don't dig through pockets. You simply speak at a natural volume. Microphones embedded in the frame capture voice while audio playback remains close to the ear. The experience mirrors what people expect from wireless audio accessories, but in a format that reduces friction even further because the wearable is already in place. Media playback follows the same logic. Whether listening to a podcast during a commute or background music while running errands, the glasses deliver sound without isolating you. This isn't about turning eyewear into a high-fidelity listening system. It's about accessibility, audio that's available instantly, integrated into something you're already wearing. That immediacy changes behavior in subtle ways. People become more likely to engage with short audio content, quick updates, or navigation cues because accessing them doesn't interrupt movement. Another important aspect is how smart glasses coexist with the smartphone rather than trying to replace it. The phone remains the primary computing hub, managing apps, notifications, and connectivity, while the glasses serve as a wearable interface for specific tasks. This division of roles reflects a realistic understanding of how people use technology. Phones excel at visual interaction and complex input. Wearables excel at glanceable or hands-free moments. Xiaomi's implementation reinforces that partnership. Instead of pretending the glasses are a standalone device ecosystem, what makes this relationship interesting is how it reduces small friction points throughout the day. Checking navigation without constantly pulling out a phone. Call while carrying groceries. Listening to directions while staying aware of surroundings. Each scenario is minor on its own, but collectively they reshape how smoothly everyday interactions flow. Wearable technology proves its value not through dramatic features, but through accumulated convenience. There's also a social dimension to consider. Smart glasses operate in shared spaces, so their design must respect social norms. Xiaomi's approach keeps interaction subtle. Audio cues are personal, voice communication remains natural, and there's no outward spectacle signaling that technology is demanding attention. That restraint is important because wearable adoption depends on social comfort as much as technical capability. Devices that integrate quietly tend to survive longer in daily routines. Stepping back, what these glasses reveal isn't just a product philosophy, it's a direction for wearable tech as a whole. The industry conversation often focuses on what devices could someday achieve, but real progress happens when technology becomes less visible. The goal isn't to overwhelm the senses with digital layers. It's to streamline moments where technology already exists in our lives. Xiaomi's smart glasses demonstrate that wearable success lies in enhancement, not replacement. When people talk about the future of wearables, they sometimes imagine dramatic leaps. In reality, evolution looks more incremental and human-centered. Devices that respect natural behavior, walking, listening, speaking, tend to integrate more deeply than those that demand attention. Smart glasses fit into this philosophy by acting as a bridge between digital information and physical movement. They don't attempt to redefine how you interact with the world. They refine how information reaches you while you do. And that refinement is where wearable technology begins to feel mature. Calls connect without interruption. Navigation guidance blends into motion. None of these functions are revolutionary on their own. Their significance comes from how seamlessly they coexist with daily life. This is why Xiaomi's smart glasses spark genuine conversation among people interested in wearable tech. They represent a grounded step forward, not flashy, not speculative, but rooted in practical enhancement. They show that the most meaningful advances often happen quietly, inside familiar forms, improving everyday moments rather than reinventing them. This emphasis on subtle integration may prove more influential than any headline grabbing, because the devices that last are the ones people willingly carry into their routines without thinking twice. What becomes even clearer after living with smart glasses for a while is that their real value doesn't show up in dramatic moments. It shows up in repetition. The same small interactions happen dozens of times a day. A quick call, a navigation cue, a short audio clip, a notification that matters. With Xiaomi smart glasses, those interactions don't feel like separate tech events. They blend into movement. And that blending is where you start to understand how wearable technology is quietly redefining convenience, not by adding complexity, but by reducing the friction between intention and action. Think about how often reaching for a phone interrupts momentum. Even a 2-second glance changes posture, focus, and awareness. When audio routes directly through glasses, that interruption shrinks. Navigation instructions arrive at ear level while your eyes stay forward. A caller's voice reaches you without forcing a pause in what you're carrying or doing. These moments are subtle, but they compound. Over time, you realize the device isn't asking for attention. It's supporting what you're already doing. That distinction matters, because wearable technology historically struggles when it tries to dominate attention. Devices that demand constant visual engagement or exaggerated gestures tend to feel like tools you must consciously manage. Xiaomi's smart glasses sit on the opposite end of that spectrum. They function as an extension of habits people already have with Bluetooth audio. Listening, speaking, reacting, but embedded into something you wear naturally. There's no new behavior to learn beyond what users already understand from. Wearable headphones. In everyday environments, this approach becomes especially practical. Walking through a crowded area while listening to directions demonstrates the advantage of open, ear-level audio. You hear guidance clearly enough to follow. Yet environmental sound remains present. Traffic noise, voices, and movement cues are still perceptible. That balance reinforces a central wearable principle. Technology should inform without isolating. Instead of replacing awareness, it layers information onto it. Calls illustrate another everyday strength. When a call comes in, answering feels fluid because the wearable is already positioned correctly. No searching, no repositioning, no device shuffle. You respond naturally, and the microphones embedded in the frame capture speech in a way designed for conversational tone. The experience resembles speaking through familiar wireless audio accessories, but with less transition between tasks. The glasses are already part of your posture, so communication becomes an extension of motion rather than a pause in it. Media listening reveals a similar pattern. Podcasts, voice notes, and spoken updates become accessible without ceremony. You're not pulling a device out just to hear a few seconds of information. The barrier to entry is low enough that short audio interactions feel effortless. This doesn't turn the glasses into a replacement for immersive listening devices. That isn't their role. Instead, they serve moments where audio enhances awareness or productivity without demanding isolation. The relationship between the glasses and the smartphone remains grounded and intentional. The phone handles processing, app management, and connectivity. The glasses operate as an audio interface that surfaces relevant interactions hands-free. This division reinforces a realistic ecosystem. Wearables complement phones instead of competing. With them, people don't need to rethink how their digital life works. The wearable simply reduces the number of steps required to access it. What stands out during extended use is consistency. Smart glasses that behave predictably build trust. Pairing remains stable through standard Bluetooth behavior. Audio routes reliably when triggered. There's no sense that you're managing a fragile piece of experimental hardware. Instead, the glasses behave like a dependable accessory, something that fits into routines without constant adjustment. Reliability may not be flashy, but it's essential for long-term adoption. Comfort continues to shape that experience. Wearables succeed when they disappear from conscious awareness. The familiar distribution of weight across the frame means extended wear doesn't feel like carrying a gadget. It feels like wearing glasses. That physical neutrality is part of why interactions feel natural. You're not thinking about the device. You're thinking about the task it supports. This shift in focus from hardware to behavior signals maturity in wearable design. Dynamics also become clearer with repeated use. Because the glasses resemble conventional eyewear, they don't draw attention in shared spaces. Conversations happen without the visual signal that a device is mediating interaction. This subtlety matters. Wearable technology that blends in is easier to accept in public settings, which directly influences how often people choose to use it. Devices that feel socially neutral tend to integrate more deeply into daily life. Over time, these small advantages reveal a broader truth about wearable evolution. The goal isn't to overwhelm users with new sensory experiences. It's to streamline the pathways between intention and information. Smart glasses act as a bridge, delivering audio cues, communication, and guidance at the moment they're needed without forcing visual focus away from the environment. That design philosophy reflects a shift away from spectacle toward practical augmentation. Consider how this changes everyday rhythm. A commute becomes smoother when spoken directions arrive naturally. Errands feel less fragmented when calls connect without breaking stride. Short informational audio becomes easier to consume because access is frictionless. None of these moments feel revolutionary in isolation. Their significance lies in how seamlessly they accumulate, shaping a workflow that feels continuous instead of interrupted. This accumulation highlights why conversations around wearable tech are changing. Early expectations centered on dramatic transformation, devices that would redefine how people see or interact with the world. The lived reality shows something more grounded. Meaningful progress comes from reducing micro-interruptions. When technology aligns with natural behavior, adoption becomes less about novelty and more about utility. Another interesting aspect is how smart glasses reinforce situational awareness rather than competing with it. Traditional handheld interactions demand visual attention. By routing key audio through a wearable interface, attention stays anchored in the environment. This balance becomes especially valuable in motion, walking, navigating public spaces, or multitasking, where awareness directly influences safety and comfort. The simplicity of the interaction model contributes to long-term usability. There's no need to memorize complex gestures or workflows. Core behavior mirrors what people already understand. Connect, listen, speak. That familiarity reduces cognitive load, which is critical for wearables intended for frequent daily use. When a device feels intuitive, it fades into routine faster. Stepping back, Xiaomi's smart glasses illustrate a practical trajectory for wearable technology. Instead of positioning wearables as replacements for existing devices, they act as companions, specialized tools that optimize specific interactions. Audio delivery, communication, and navigation support become more accessible without redefining how users engage with their phones or surroundings. What this reveals about the future of wearables is less about features and more about philosophy. Devices that succeed will likely prioritize integration over spectacle. They'll focus on moments where technology can assist without dominating attention. Smart glasses represent that mindset in action. A wearable that enhances everyday behavior by being present, reliable, and unobtrusive. And as you continue using them, the most telling realization is how quickly the novelty fades. Not because the device loses value, but because it becomes part of the background rhythm of daily life. That's the strongest signal of wearable maturity. When technology stops announcing itself and simply works, it moves from gadget to tool. Xiaomi's smart glasses demonstrate that transition clearly, showing that the real future of wearable tech isn't loud or theatrical. It's quiet, practical, and woven directly into the flow of everyday experience. As that everyday rhythm settles in, the most important shift isn't about any single interaction. It's about how your expectations start to recalibrate. After enough days using smart glasses as part of normal routines, reaching for a phone begins to feel like the extra step instead of the default one. That doesn't mean the phone disappears or becomes less important. It means the wearable layer absorbs small, frequent actions in a way that feels more proportional to their size. A quick update, a short response, a navigation cue, these moments no longer justify breaking stride. They arrive, you process them, and you continue moving. This recalibration is subtle, but it explains why smart glasses are gaining attention beyond novelty. Xiaomi's approach demonstrates that wearable technology doesn't need to replace screens to be meaningful. Instead, it reshapes when and how screens are necessary. If spoken directions already reach you clearly, you don't need to glance down. If a call routes instantly through a frame you're already wearing, you don't need to reorganize your hands or posture. The glasses don't remove capability, they reduce friction around access. What becomes especially noticeable is how this changes task flow. Daily life is full of micro-transitions, stopping to check information, pausing to respond, shifting attention between environment and device. Smart glasses compress those transitions. Information arrives in the same physical space as your awareness. So the act of receiving it doesn't feel like stepping out of the moment. You remain oriented toward your surroundings while still connected to your digital context. This balance reinforces a core wearable principle. The best technology participates in behavior instead of interrupting it. Xiaomi's smart glasses illustrate that principle through consistency. Audio delivery feels predictable. Calls connect in a familiar way. Navigation cues arrive when needed, without demanding visual confirmation. Because these behaviors repeat reliably, the device builds trust. Trust in wearable technology is what allows users to depend on it rather than treat it as an occasional accessory. There's also a psychological component that emerges over time. Devices that require visible interaction often signal disengagement to the people around you. Looking down at a phone communicates a shift in attention. Smart glasses minimize that signal because interaction happens through natural posture and speech. Conversations feel uninterrupted. You stay visually present while still connected to information. That social continuity makes wearable use feel more acceptable in shared environments. Extended use also highlights how smart glasses support situational awareness rather than competing with it. When audio cues coexist with environmental sound, you maintain spatial understanding while receiving guidance or communication. This layered listening model aligns with how people already process information, multiple channels, prioritized naturally. Instead of isolating you inside a device, the glasses act as an overlay that respects your surroundings. Another long-term observation is how predictability influences comfort. Wearables succeed when users stop thinking about them as hardware. Xiaomi's smart glasses don't demand constant adjustments or ritualized interaction. They behave like a stable audio accessory integrated into eyewear. That reliability allows attention to stay focused on activity rather than device management. The less you think about the tool, the more seamlessly it integrates into routine. As routines develop, the glasses begin to define a new baseline for convenience. Short audio interactions, listening to a voice message, answering a call, following spoken directions, feel proportionate to the effort required. There's no ceremony around access. That proportionality is key. Wearable technology feels natural when the energy required to use it matches the scale of the task. Smart glasses excel in moments where quick interaction matters more than immersive engagement. It's also worth recognizing how this experience reframes expectations around wearable innovation. Early narratives often focused on dramatic transformation, augmented visuals, complex gesture systems, or futuristic interfaces. The lived experience of practical smart glasses suggests a different trajectory. Real progress appears in devices that simplify everyday behavior without demanding new habits. Xiaomi's implementation reflects that direction. Familiar interaction models delivered in a form factor people already understand. Over time, this practicality becomes the defining value. The glasses don't compete with phones, tablets, or dedicated audio gear. They occupy a specific role, delivering communication and spoken information hands-free while preserving awareness. That specialization is what makes them sustainable in daily life. Devices that attempt to do everything often struggle with identity. Wearables that focus on doing a few things well integrate more easily. There's also an efficiency aspect that becomes clearer with repeated use. When interactions align with natural movement, cognitive load decreases. You're not deciding whether to stop and access a device, the information simply arrives. That fluidity supports multitasking without fragmenting attention. Walking, carrying items, navigating unfamiliar spaces, these scenarios benefit from audio-based interaction because they respect physical context. What this reveals about the broader wearable landscape is a shift toward coexistence rather than replacement. Smart glasses don't aim to redefine how people see the world. They refine how people access it. Communication, navigation, and short-form audio become ambient capabilities instead of deliberate tasks. The technology becomes part of the environment you carry, not a separate destination demanding focus. As the novelty fades, which it inevitably does, what remains is habit. The glasses become something you put on because they make small moments easier. That's the threshold where wearable tech stops being experimental and starts being practical. When a device earns a place in routine through reliability and comfort, it transitions from curiosity to tool, and that's ultimately what Xiaomi's smart glasses reveal about the real trajectory of wearable technology. The future isn't defined by spectacle or exaggerated capability. It's shaped by devices that respect human rhythm, tools that deliver information in ways that align with how people already move, communicate, and pay attention. Smart glasses succeed not by changing what you do, but by smoothing how you do it. When technology reaches that level of integration, it stops feeling like an add-on and starts feeling like part of everyday experience. Quiet, dependable, and naturally embedded in the flow of daily life. As that sense of integration deepens, another layer becomes clear. Smart glasses aren't just changing how information reaches you, they're quietly redefining when technology feels appropriate to use. Traditional devices often demand a deliberate shift in posture or attention. You pause, unlock a screen, frame your view, and then return to what you were doing. With Xiaomi's smart glasses, interaction happens inside motion instead of interrupting it. That distinction may sound small, but in daily life it changes the rhythm of how technology fits into ordinary moments. You begin to notice this most in transitional situations, stepping out of a building while answering a call, navigating a crowded street, or carrying items with both hands occupied. Instead of stopping to manage a device, communication stays accessible without altering your movement. Because audio is delivered directly and consistently, you're not negotiating where to place a phone or how to split attention between a screen and your environment. The glasses act as a stable interface that moves with you. What stands out is how this stability influences confidence. When wearable tech behaves predictably, you stop treating it as fragile or situational. Xiaomi's smart glasses feel less like a gadget you occasionally deploy and more like an extension of something you already rely on, similar to headphones or prescription frames. That familiarity reduces hesitation. You don't think about whether the device fits the moment. You assume it does because its function aligns with everyday behavior. There's also a gradual shift in how communication feels spatially anchored. Calls and audio cues originate from a consistent physical point, your frame, rather than from a handheld object that changes position. Over time, this creates a subtle sense of orientation. You instinctively know where sound is coming from. And that consistency makes interactions feel grounded rather than detached. It's a small ergonomic detail, but one that reinforces the wearable's role as part of your personal space. Another important observation emerges around mental bandwidth. Devices that require visual confirmation often split attention sharply. Even a quick glance at a screen temporarily pulls focus away from your surroundings. Audio-centered interaction through smart glasses reduces that division. Information arrives in a channel that doesn't demand visual disengagement, allowing your eyes to remain where they're most needed on people, movement, or navigation. This alignment between sensory input and physical awareness makes the experience feel calmer and more continuous. As routines solidify, you start recognizing how smart glasses support momentum. Daily activities rarely occur in isolation. They flow into one another. Walking leads into conversation, conversation leads into navigation, navigation leads into another task. Because Xiaomi's glasses keep communication and audio accessible. Across these transitions, the device follows your pace instead of resetting it. Technology becomes a background layer that maintains continuity rather than forcing repeated context switches. Social dynamics also become clearer with extended use. Traditional device interaction can signal withdrawal, the familiar gesture of looking down at a screen. Smart glasses minimize that visual cue. You remain physically oriented toward others while still connected to incoming communication. This doesn't eliminate distraction, but it changes how engagement is perceived. Conversations feel less interrupted because your posture and gaze stay aligned with the moment. The durability of that experience matters too. Wearable technology has to withstand repetition without fatigue, physical or cognitive. Frames that remain comfortable over hours encourage consistent use. When a device doesn't need frequent adjustment or management, it fades into the background. Xiaomi's design philosophy emphasizes that kind of low-maintenance presence, which is essential for something worn throughout the day. Comfort isn't just about fit. It's about reducing the mental effort required to coexist with the device. What becomes increasingly apparent is that smart glasses excel in situations where immediacy matters more than immersion. They don't aim to replace deep screen interaction or extended media consumption. Instead, they handle the short, frequent exchanges that define modern connectivity: quick calls, spoken directions, brief audio messages. By matching capability to context, the glasses avoid overextension. They serve a focused purpose, and that clarity supports reliability. This clarity reflects a broader pattern in wearable evolution. Early expectations often centered on replacing existing devices outright. Real-world adoption suggests a more measured path. Wearables succeed when they complement established tools rather than competing with them. Xiaomi's smart glasses illustrate that principle by positioning themselves as an access layer, a bridge between physical movement and digital communication, instead of a standalone computing platform. As familiarity grows, the distinction between device and routine blurs. You don't consciously decide to use the glasses. You simply wear them, and communication remains available as needed. That normalization is the hallmark of successful wearable design. Technology becomes part of behavior instead of an event that interrupts it. When a device reaches that threshold, its value is measured less by novelty and more by how naturally it integrates. Looking at the broader wearable landscape, this integration suggests a future defined by refinement rather than spectacle. Smart glasses demonstrate that meaningful innovation often appears in incremental improvements to daily interaction, smoother access, reduced friction, and consistent presence. Xiaomi's implementation shows how focusing on practical behavior can make wearable tech feel grounded instead of experimental. Ultimately, what this ongoing experience reveals is that the future of wearables isn't about overwhelming capability. It's about proportional usefulness, delivering the right information in the right moment without demanding unnecessary attention. Smart glasses succeed when they respect the flow of everyday life, enhancing communication and awareness, while remaining unobtrusive. And when a piece of technology reaches that balance, dependable, comfortable, and seamlessly integrated, it stops feeling like something you operate and starts feeling like something you live with. That quiet transition is where wearable technology proves its staying power. And it's exactly the space Xiaomi's smart glasses occupy, not as a dramatic replacement for existing devices, but as a steady companion that aligns with how people already move through their day.